Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Another day, another show by PW Hotelier. This is a line I've parroted for 19 shows. This is the 20th time I've done it. Welcome to the 20th show. But today is the last show of the 2022 season of the GM show series, which we end today. We draw curtains on it. We will be back next year in 2023. The 2022 GM series has just been a beginning, like I've said in my last show as well. I can only gauge the success of the series from the calls and messages that we've been getting. They've been non-stop. Lots of words of encouragement. But all good things must end or perhaps take a break. We're planning a very interesting follow-up to this series, for which we shall be traveling to various locations. We shall let you know. I don't want to announce the exact plans. Let it be a surprise, but we will be there. We'll be traveling. Look out for us and follow bwhotelier.com, as we say. The topic for the show today is a very interesting one and extremely important for not just today, but for the future. And all impressionable hoteliers must watch this episode. It's about the evolving role of the hotel general manager. A bit on the series before I begin an introduction to the general managers. Truly momentous in more than ways than one. It has been path-breaking. The GM show series has been on my mind for long. We were to begin sooner than the 3 lockdowns. We had to wait for the dust to settle after yet another disruption. And soon as that happened, we finally began on the 11th of November, and we end almost four and a half months later. We're 20 shows old in the series, almost 140 general managers, regional heads and area directors. Loads of back-end action happens to produce each show, which most won't be privy to. Scheduling is tough and can draw on all your patience and skills. Well, I shall thank all here, be they the regional heads, area directors, and the general managers who've graced our shows and their teams. I should save a very, very special word for the team at BW and BW Hotelier, marketing, editorial, design, video, uplinking, social media, and the entire BW and BWH team. Let me say that again, without whom this wouldn't have been possible. We wouldn't have been able to pull it off. After almost a year, we can now relax and enjoy Thursdays and pre-show days. It took a lot of planning. Please follow BW Hotelier on social media and encourage us. Let me now begin with our introduction. I shall first begin with the man in the hot seat at the ITC Kakatiya in Hyderabad, Ashutosh Chibba. Ashutosh Chibba is the general manager at the rather well-appointed ITC Kakatiya in Hyderabad, an alumni of the IHM Kolkata, who's been working for 30 years with the ITC hotels. Great, long, solid stint. Post his graduation from ITC Welcome Group Management Institute, he's worked for both leisure and business hotels in F&B, as well as the general management function. He's always spearheaded the goals of the company with integrity, hard work, and diligence. Welcome to the show, Ashu.
Thank you, Bhunesh. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Now to the man from Delhi who heads the Shangri-La in Bengaluru, Rakesh Sethi. Rakesh Sethi is the general manager, Shangri-La, Bengaluru. A thorough professional who's worked over 20 years in some of India's finest hotels. Rakesh realized quite early in his career that there were no shortcuts to success. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. He firmly believes that there are no accidents in life. You've lined them all up. What one achieves is more through desire than default. Welcome to the show, Rakesh. How well is that introduction?
Thanks a lot, Bhuvnesh. Thank you.
Pleasure. Let me now get down to this Bengali in Kochi. Subhankar is the general manager, Kochi Marriott Hotel. He's seasoned hotelier again with over 20 years of experience. He commenced his journey with Marriott International in 2016 as the resident manager at the JW Marriott in Bengaluru. He's also worked with esteemed brands in India such as Taj Hotels, a 12-year-long stint with Hyatt International in multiple locations and roles, and with Accor Hotels in their flagship complex property, Pullman and Novotel, New Delhi at the Aero City. Prior to his current role, he was the general manager of the Renaissance Bengaluru Racecourse Hotel. Welcome to the show, Subhankar. To the birthday boy now in Kochi, who's just flown in from Kathmandu to hold the reins, Rajesh Ramdas, General Manager, Grand Hyatt Kochi Bolgatty. Happy birthday, Rajesh.
Thank you very much. It's a special day indeed.
God bless you. Rajesh is a seasoned hotelier with remarkable tenures at the Leela Kempinski and Burj Al Arab. His journey with Hyatt started at the Hyatt Regency in Mumbai in 2010. He's been the general manager of the Hyatt Regency in Ludhiana, Hyatt Regency Kathmandu before he moved south recently to the Grand Hyatt Kochi. He completed his hotel management from the Mangalore University, and subsequently he's been part of courses at Cornell University, Harvard Business Publishing, and he's a lover of fiction and enjoys traveling. Welcome to the show, Rajesh.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. Alex Koshy. Alex Koshy is the general manager, Radisson Blue Resort, Visakhapatnam, Vizag as they say. An alumni of the IHM Chennai. Alex's initial part of the career was in Ireland and UK. After spending 12 years in Europe, where he opened 2 hotels as hotel manager, he returned to India in 2011, opened the Hyber Himalayan Resort and Spa in Gulmarg. Following that, he joined the Radisson Hotel Group as the general manager for their Ahmedabad unit. His present assignment is at the Radisson Blue Resort and Spa, Visakhapatnam, or Vizag as we now call it, or Vizag as we know it. Last but not the least, Rahul Nama. Rahul Nama is the general manager, Mercure, Chennai, Sriperumbudur. Hi, Rahul. Rahul is a versatile hotelier with over 22 years of hospitality experience across diverse locations in India and overseas. Some of his career highlights include leading several greenfield hotel projects, international assignments in the Philippines, Indonesia, and Israel, including stints with international chains, standalone properties, an integrated casino resort and kosher restaurant chain, among others. In his spare time, he's an avid sportsman and also takes keen interest in exploring food, culture, history, wherever he travels. That's quite a bit packed into your young years, Rahul. Welcome to the show. You are our pre-opening expert along with Alex.
Thank you.
All right. Being the last show, it can't be a straight line as in the previous 19. Before we get into the discussion, let us watch a brief AV on this GM show series, which started on Thursday, 11th November 2021. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So this is our first show, another day, another show by the BW Hotelier.
It is a consequence of this strategy that has helped us make it more cost effective.
The students who join that program are exposed across various departments.
If there's one thing which is insulated from pollution and the winter and the cold, is the big fat Indian wedding.
Weddings out of a catering business was almost close to, I think, about 40% of catering business.
There is no denying that the COVID-19 pandemic has sent the global economy into shock.
Over the last 16 months, 18 months, there has been a major shift in the industry.
We had to teach ourselves to be empathetic, to listen.
Our first priority has always been to ensure that our guest experience is seamless.
They've had a lot of time at home. They've had a lot of time thinking about stuff.
We need to really take pride in, and we need to ensure that this continues.
From what we used to hunt for to what we are conducting.
When you put 4 guys in a room, the guy from the south would do the most and talk the least.
Today, there are various companies who are willing to partner with hotels and come up with solutions that drive sustainability.
We will need to start educating even our consumers about rethinking and refusing.
I don't think for the East, whether it's the 5 states, whether it's the way you look at it in different cities.
The state has got palaces, it's got forts, it's got royal heritage.
When you hire somebody or when you nurture somebody, they grow with the organization.
It is all about rotating people. It's all about double hatting. It's about optimally utilizing our resources.
He or she operates as a role model for the subordinates.
Currently, that we are facing a talent crunch in the industry.
As you mentioned, the holidays from once a year to now 3 times a year.
Domestic travel was like a booster shot, make us float in this business.
Our number one focus is to go local.
For some, it's a passion. For some, it's a necessity.
At one time, we were the ultimate choice where you would get that best French fry in town.
Look at our profitability in terms of per wine bottle sold.
Are there any new business segments or new business trends that we believe that have kind of emerged?
So there was a huge desire to move out and travel at the earliest opportunity.
Is it the customer first or is it technology first? And sometimes it's a bit of a struggle.
World's only mothers run market is in Manipur.
Art, monuments, events, spirituality, gems and jewelry, and above all, food.
This has been a very special series for us, and we'd like to thank all our speakers. Thank you all for being there. The 2022 The GM Show series is an industry first and a path-breaking initiative by BW Hotelier, where we've gone beyond the metros to tier 2 and 3 cities across brands, hotel classifications, to bring to the national debate general managers who had hitherto not been heard or seen on many forums. Each show has been debated on current and other important topics, and next year we shall be lifting the bar after the success of this inaugural 2022 series. All show recordings are there for the keen to watch at bwhotelier.com for repeat viewing as a go-to learning catalog of specials and referral hospitality content. Not just this, each of the nearly 140 moderators and speakers who presented and debated their case over 20 episodes from November 22, 2021 to April 29, 2022 today, they are all industry stalwarts. With over 4 months of scheduling, coordination, and paneling, and a relay of shows, it was now time to close the 2022 series, even though we were under pressure to extend it. Next year, we shall plan better with all the learnings behind us this year and bring to the Indian hospitality, travel, and tourism the very best general managers, regional heads, and area directors, yet again, debating new topics. And yes, like our credo, at BW Hotelier, the sun never sets. We shall bring you more series with focus on Indian hospitality, travel, and tourism. At BW Hotelier, we do things differently, and that is why we lead. Keep following us on online and around social media. Let me now begin this show, the evolving role of hotel general managers. Today, the role of a hotel general manager is often all-encompassing, and he or she are not just the boss, the buck stops with them. They have to think on their feet as superhumans with loads of chutzpah and have to own their business as an owner, as an entrepreneur. be it sales, marketing, operations, IT, finance, HR, F&B, banquets, events, maintenance, security, the works, and delighting a guest as in customer service, all with a smile. Their job is 24/7. Don't forget that. In today's day and age, where technology has made it easier with information in real time on the tips, managing an asset is not a challenge. It is about how efficiently and productively can it be done. As new technologies proliferate and competition grows fiercer, the role of the general manager has undergone dramatic changes. It is then time to relook at a GM's JD for job description. Let us begin the debate. And let me start with the man in Vizag, Alex Koshy. Alex, I have a question which interestingly starts the show on a good foot. General manager is not for the faint-hearted or the ones who aren't ready for a 24/7 deep dive role, where getting into details and being hands-on is a prerequisite. The question is, how, as your experience working with global chains, domestic chains, and managing standalone properties, does it come in handy?
Thank you very much, Bhuvanesh, for having me here in the season finale. Thank you. It's both pleasure and honor to be here. Yes, definitely not for the faint-hearted. Leading from the front, eye for detail, jack of all trades, plenty of cliches to define our role. But however, in my journey, what I have found is, it's more about how being thoughtful, being analytical, being creative, being compassionate that defines our role. Now, coming to the question, global, domestic, or individual properties where I have worked in, what I have always focused is that my guests leave my property happy, with me spending just about enough so that my bottom line is protected or exceeded. Now, in terms of involvement, spending time at the unit, it depends more on the individual style of management of the person, irrespective of the domain they are working in. When it comes to international chains or domestic chains, yes, you have the advantage. You have been given certain briefs. You have the guidelines as to what is to be achieved, and the expectations are communicated. But on the other hand, when it comes to an individual property, the general manager actually gets to create those, the targets or the expectation, in conjunction with the owner's vision. Same way, you've got plenty of the processes, audit, surveys, which global and international chains use. With the advantage, again, for individual properties, you get to make them to suit your individual property. My initiation and growing up, as you were saying, it did happen in Dublin and Belfast. Now, being hands-on, yes, of course, it was a prerequisite, and more than a prerequisite, it was actually a work culture that was formed there. It really helped that in those 12 years I worked there, I did work in all these three domains. So when I came back to open the Kanusti Wellness Resort in Kerala, and subsequently the Khyber in Kashmir, one in God's own country and one in heaven on earth, and apparently now in the City of Destiny, there are plenty of similarities. Now, the similarities which went beyond the geographical locations, for that matter, the Fitzwilliam in Belfast or the Park Plaza in Dublin. My point here is, to me, a hotel is a hotel is a hotel, irrespective of whether it's a brand, international brand, domestic, or an individual property. You learn from all. All that matters is how we adapt ourselves, how resilient we become, how adept we become, and how we choose to apply what we learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Interesting. Yes, of course. Indian experience is brilliant when coupled with your global experience. So to that extent, you're lucky and well endowed. Let me now move into Bangalore with Rakesh. Rakesh, in your years in general management and earlier as a member of the GM's team, how have you seen the GM's role evolve, even factoring in the last century's biggest derailer, we've just faced Corona and lockdowns. And with all your years in the industry, in running a hotel as a general manager, tell us what are the evolving priorities when you look back down the years, the lockdown, and now looking ahead.
Great, thanks once again, Bhuvnesh, for having me on this show.
Pleasure is ours, Rakesh.
Yeah, so we all know that the topic is very, very relevant. The role of general manager has never been static. The ability to multitask and be quick to adapt has always been a prerequisite because of the nature of our industry. So general managers need to be, as someone earlier said, jack of all trades and definitely master of some. So from analyzing the profit and loss statement to dealing with the staff and guest disputes, the role is multifunctional. But in today's world, GMs work more behind the scenes than in the past. In the past, a GM would call all the shots. But today, because of the increasing complexities across all areas of responsibility, be it sales and marketing, be it finance, be it operations, technical, a GM must surround himself with strong minds. His team has to be diverse, who are expert in their respective fields. Today's general managers, I believe, face a much more multifaceted operating environment than what it was a decade ago. This is driven primarily by the digital and highly connected world we live in. The internet has made business decision-making much faster and lead times have dropped dramatically. At the same time, what is happening is electronic word of mouth, online reviews, price comparison websites. They have educated the customer to an extent that they are looking at every experience to be customized to their requirement. What that has resulted in is that customers are tending to be less loyal than what they used to be. So the biggest opportunity I see as a GM now is to embrace the trend of analyzing user data and using it to deliver better experiences for all stakeholders. General managers these days also need to be approachable and visionary because it's not only the customer requirements which are changing, so is the employee requirements as well. They expect more from working in hotels than a decade ago. Lessons learned from COVID. I'll just finish by saying this, that there are no certainties in life, be it you as a private person or a business manager. Foresight and sustainable management always pay off. Building reserves in good times always pays off in challenging times like now. So the learning is being agile and nimble, not being afraid of taking calculated risks, and most importantly, looking after your team and supporting the community that you operate in are the key learnings for me.
Well said, Rakesh. Yeah, you're right. You're right. These are magic mantras for general managers. I just hope the ones who are in the flanks waiting to take on general management are hearing these points. Very important. Let me now move into Sriperumbudur with Rahul Nama. Rahul, let us talk a bit about a general manager's role by class of assets, properties, and locations. This is a no-brainer, but I must ask you this. How does managing different segments of properties, the premium end, luxury, upper upscale, mid-scale, budget, etc., help as an experience? Go up and down like a yo-yo, right? And imagine someone who's managed the upper end, but doesn't have experience at the lower end of the hotel pyramid. Read budget and economy hotels. Your views and your personal experience.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bhuvnesh, for giving the opportunity to share my views.
Yeah.
And let me also begin by saying that it's an honor and privilege to share the stage with the esteemed industry colleagues from my region. So coming to the question that you asked, I compare a hotel's GM's job equivalent to a CEO of a company, which even my industry colleagues would agree, who is versatile in his skills to manage any industry or segment of business. They may come with certain specialization or core competencies, but they can essentially see the picture and adapt management styles wherever they are working. So being agile and nimble is very important irrespective of the format of the hotel, of the property. And of course, these days, the GM should also develop a strong sense of ownership of the product, since ultimately owners want to see them aligned with their own vision. In many cases, and in my company, I can say that Accor really wants its general managers to be entrepreneurs. And it gives that culture and openness to operate the properties. So ultimately, you have to do the best for your owners and the brand to deliver in any location that you work. We also have a seamless opportunities for the general managers to move across different segments of the properties. So talking a little bit specifically about the upper end of the pyramid, yes, it would be definitely vastly different in dynamics and concepts from lower end of the spectrum. But pandemic has drawn the line thinner and has posed luxury and premium segment properties to become leaner, rationalize the cost, which was always the case with economy and budget segment properties. Similarly, if we consider economy hotels, it doesn't mean that they will focus only on basics. But like in Accor, I can give example of Ibis hotels, which operate the properties very dynamically, and this is the native brand which has always been in the forefront of innovation in last few years. Something like Ibis Music, which was the innovation in 2019 when the Ibises were used for organizing mini live concerts across the globe around the world. And not just that, the new designs were launched, the happening food and beverage concepts were launched across the brand while integrating technology to enhance guest experience in Ibis. So irrespective of the category and location, it is totally up to the brand and the general managers how they can integrate certain common elements and have a vision and the entrepreneurship to operate the property, understanding the micro market and the region. So sharing my own example, I can say that I have myself transitioned from a large city center corporate business hotel in Jakarta to a economy hotel in Mumbai, and then to a luxury casino resort. So I definitely I can say that the experience in diversified formats of the property have been excellent for me to get ideas and best practices in my professional life. So and lastly, I can say that we have to be open-minded, have deep respect for the culture that we are working in, and adapt to the guest expectation. Things will automatically fall in place. Thank you.
So very well said, Rahul. I mean, diverse experience makes for a more than merrier case, and also the fact that you are also a pre-opening specialist. We'll come to that in a bit. Let me now move to Subhankar. Subhankar, tell me, this is a very critical question: managing an owner and operating bosses simultaneously. It's like two bosses. You've got to keep them both happy. They both appraise you. They both go after you, right? For the ones who had managed assets, I have three parts to this question. For the ones who had managed assets, you have the unenviable task of managing owners and your bosses in the operating company. That can be a tall ask, one. Let us hear from you the challenges and your personal style and approach. I'll come to the other after your response.
Right. So, Bhuvanesh, thank you for arranging this lovely session, and I am really thankful that I'm among the industry colleagues who are also stalwarts in their own field and their own skill sets, and I'm very happy.
It's an honor for us all to be amongst all general managers. I mean, I would give my right arm to be where you people are.
Right, absolutely. But thank you so much for getting us in this last episode, which is one of the most important one, I'm sure, and it will definitely create a great amount of buzz for us, and it's in the post-pandemic that is most important. We are all looking, decked up and completely ready to take the world on from here. Yes, the role of a general manager, especially in this particular question that you have, put forward here, I think it is paramount. I think this is the most important role that we play in ensuring that we bridge the gap, or we bridge the communication between the ownership of the hotel and also the operator who's operating the asset. In our case, it is an international operator, and we do work with owners who are locally well known, and they're well settled in the local ecosystem. Our job becomes very, very important, because we not, in general, how people look at it is that, you are representing international brand, and you are a representative from the brand to, mediate, to discuss, to negotiate, and to, work with the local owner. But more from that perspective, I think in today's time, when ownership has really evolved as well, from the time when owners used to operate their own hotels, to the time now that we are having management companies running those assets. I think ownership has also, over a period of time, or they have gone through several different circumstances. They have seen the world changing. They've seen the order changing completely in their favor, and also the way international brands and domestic brands are growing. Owners have also dealt with different brands at a time, and they have become much more aware of how things works, and they are in a position to actually keep check on things that we as operators doing. In that circumstances, I think general manager's role becomes extremely important. And in our daily day-to-day work, we are, although representing the brand, but at the same time inducing a lot of confidence in the ownership's mind, because that is our prime job at this point of time, to ensure that we look at our best practices. We constantly keep innovating our programs, innovating our offerings, and bring in value which will drive results for the ownership. So we work very closely with the ownership in most of the cases in today's time, to ensure that the ownership is more confident that they have actually selected the right operator, and they are working with a very professional operator to build their asset and to take it forward.
So tell me, Subhankar, who calls the final shots, the owner or your boss, or is it a bit of both, or perhaps negotiated? And if and a bit about maintaining relations with the owners, operators, the team, and guests, and communicating with them.
So the final shot, yes, definitely. It is. It depends from situation to situation. In today's time, I think the ownership definitely plays a very important role, because we are in a situation wherein we have seen the pandemic really taking a huge impact on us as companies have struggled really during that time, and we have seen different situations evolving. In such a condition, I think the ownership has been a great support for most of the assets, and we definitely take the owner's viewpoint and try to see what is the best possible way to work with their interest in mind. So in most cases, I would say the owners definitely have a final shot, but being a professional company, driving this industry trends, I think as operators, we also ensure that they fall in line, with the required trends that we are having in the market, and what will be beneficial for the ownership in the long run, and not only in the short-term gain for them. So it's a mutual respect. It's a mutual work that happens, and any assets where the operator and the ownership has been able to work hand in hand. They have been able to actually be more successful than a hotel where both works in a completely different way, and the GM's role becomes very, very important in that case.
Yeah, thank you, Subhankar. I get your point. And yeah, it can be tricky, but when managed well, it's like any relationship. If you manage it well, it'll flow. I'll now go to Ashutosh Chibba. Ashu, given your years, over 3 decades in the industry and all with ITC, tell me the last generation. You've seen some of the final general managers go to where they are. They've all become. Some of them have become very good CXOs. Right? I don't have to take names. Tell me the last generation of general managers were in the classic mold. Some schooled in specialty, hospitality schools, which weren't too many. And then the best in India, or groomed under able administrators. The pipe smoking, pinstriped Savile Row suits, Oxfords, with the retinue of secretarial staff. I'm sure you get the idea. I'm just giving you an idea, build up to the question. Life has come a full circle since the challenges and opportunities have turned on their head. It's a brand new ball game. It is about survival of the fittest, swim or sink. Tell me, what change have you seen? I've got 2 parts to this. What change have you seen in that approach versus today? And how do they both come in handy in today's day and age? And if you can,
Ramesh, thank you for having me.
And if you to make it interesting, if you can lace it up with some anecdotes and examples of both then and now, this will be good to hear.
Thank you, Bhunesh. Thank you for having me over. Yeah,
pleasure.
You said it up very well. It's extremely interesting. Don't we all, as general managers, wish we go back and live those days? But I guess things were tougher that time as well. We've all kind of, when going through the catering colleges, when we train in the hotels and in our earlier part of our careers while growing up, we used to kind of look at these GMs as larger than life, really the romanticized image of the GM we had, standing in the lobby, meeting guests, super host, entertaining. We thought that we'll be all doing this, once we grow up and reach in there. But now that we are here now, I guess we see all this waning away now. I guess my fellow panelists would agree with that. Yeah, I think those were things of the past. That was needed at that hour, and I think must have been really tough for those guys doing it that time. Coming to the point now, what has kind of really transformed, what has changed in all these years? I've been in this business for the last almost 3 decades now. The position has always been very challenging. Nothing can be taken away from that. A GM of a hotel had pressures even that time. I guess pressures have increased, I would say. The last decade and a half has even become much more dynamic, I would say, than what I have seen. Given the fact that so many facets of the hospitality business have changed, or have shifted, I would say, not changed, but shifted. The changes are ever evolving in the consumer behavior, guest expectation. My fellow panelists just touched on the financial expectation, the demands from the owners, new legislations coming in like FSSAI and all, extremely stringent, corporate governance, digital transformation, social media, and more demands. This has ensured that the Savile Row effect, of the affairs in the lobby has really come down now. We spend less and lesser time in the lobbies, I guess. It's more in the heart of the house, going around the hotel, not positioning ourselves in hotels and restaurants, right? We used to do earlier on the lobbies in the restaurants, I would say. The basics of the hoteliering, if you really ask me, have remained the same. But with the new pressures, we are all morphing into new roles, I would assume that. If I say that, we won't be wrong. But I say the success of the GM depends on how fast and efficiently we'll be able to adapt to this changing scenario. And all of us have done pretty well, I guess, all of us who are on this panel right now and at the position that we're handling. My personal belief, in times to come, the role of a GM has to be extremely nimble, adaptable, and proficient. And, and there's a very thin line now that he's walking on. And he has to really maintain that balance extremely well. Otherwise, you can always fall. So the role what we were doing, let's say a GM 2 decades back and that what he's doing right now, there's a little bit of change in the whole perspective that things are now today at. Looking at, if I kind of go back, a general manager would meet a corporate guy in the evening, have 2 drinks in the lobby, and then the account got shifted. Things were very simple, I would assume. I still assume. But now I guess it's a little more complex than that. RFPs, FPR rates, it's a huge complexity which has come into the whole thing. But I guess, yeah, it has to go on. Let's see how it pans out in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. That was very, very nice. I mean, good to hear, and a very good insight on how general management has evolved. Let me now touch base with Rajesh Ramdas, the birthday boy. Rajesh, I want to draw you in on another important part, reviews. Reviews are critical and do not just show where one is to budgets and plans. They bring alignment, 1, and show urgency, 2, and then the recalibration of plans and teamwork. We are all in it together, right? All GMs have their own style, system, methods, and manner. What is yours? Which is the best you've seen and why? Will you name him or her?
Thank you for having me over, and especially to a large forum where I can celebrate my birthday on a larger scale than limited to the hotel. So thank you once again. Well, in terms of reviews, this is something that we keep facing on a regular basis, be it weekly, monthly, annual, or even quarterly. Now, what I've noticed is that the style that I have as of now has evolved over time, and this is to do with all the leaders that I've worked with. Some of them huge personalities, so you pick up some of the good traits that they have in them, the sort of finer points that they look into when they are reviewing, be it budgets, be it certain processes. So picking up those finer points, I've been able to evolve over time, and also working with teams that are very dynamic in today's times, you also start learning from them. So at a certain point in reviews, you have not only the leadership team learning from you or your experience, but you're also learning from them. And all in all, I think what I normally try and do, be it budget reviews or otherwise, it is to make it interesting, because some of these processes stretch over months together. You start at a certain point, possibly in June, July, and it probably ends somewhere in November or December. So to keep it interesting, if you have the buy-in of the team, that it's an interesting exercise which just happens once in a year, and it is almost as if every year is a new learning exercise, and you apply your mind on how best you can fine-tune it, it becomes interesting for them, because some of them are doing it probably for the first time, or some have done a couple of them before. But a mundane task, which is almost financial in nature, to make it interesting is what keeps it up and going for the team. As with the teams, I've noticed that burning the midnight oil was one of the words that I haven't stopped using. It's become a cliche for me, I guess, because when push comes to shove, and when the deadlines are right there, there is no other way around it. If it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even if it is now, if you need to submit something and there is a deadline for tomorrow, then it's only tonight and the whole night. So yes, it has evolved over time, but keeping the team interested and enjoying the process and learning out of it is way forward, I think.
So I'm not going to ask you about your cross-functional reviews in the hotel or your reviews with your boss and on your hotel's performance, right? The budgets and all. I think you've made some very interesting points. When reviews extend or the planning for a review, they actually eat away into a lot of productive time. But I guess technology now pairs up numbers much faster than we would have wanted. But tell me, what is your view on reviews? Really, reviews per se. There are long reviews, there are short reviews, there are sudden reviews.
Well, on a weekly basis that we've been doing, weekly reviews are very good. It gives you an insight of what is there in store for future, and are you aligned, or some corrections need to be done. If it is monthly, it's something that is necessary because you're aligning the rest of the year to it. Yes, owner reviews are there. It could be as short as 45 minutes or it could be 4 hours. And this is just a monthly review. It's not a budget review. Yes, you have to go through it. But I've come to notice that owners who have a lot of hotels and their understanding of the business is very deep in nature. There are things that you can pick up from there as well. It could be long, but there are learnings that come of it as well.
Very good. Excellent. That actually paints a good picture. Now, this is where every show we had a mid-show break to introduce the next show. It's not going to be today. So I'll jump into our 7th with Alex. Alex, you're back for your second. Tell me, guest interaction, relations, and indulgence are the make or break for any brand, hotel team, and the general manager. 1, what is your method and style about interaction with guests and networking? And how successful has it been? And does this impact in the guest coming back? His or her good word of mouth, referrals, and yes, a good referral. A good review, sorry.
See, ours is an industry where more than technology, the human aspect, the human emotions, the sensories plays the major role. So only way to ensure that we are successful in that particular aspect is to have, through meaningful interactions. Now, you cannot have just a set way to get this done. For example, when I was actually managing a high-end resort where the ARR was over 25,000 rupees, I used to welcome every single guest into the hotel myself. And where not possible, I used to make sure that I meet them on departure. And I used to meet every single guest at least a couple of times during their stay, give them options on itineraries, experiences, all those aspects. Every guest used to get a personalized handwritten note from me. Now, that was needed in that particular high-end model. Now, when I came to be a city center, was working for a city center, pure business hotel, I struggled to engage with my guests. And to add to it, it's a dry state. So there is not even an evening lounge where the guests will come or I can actually entertain them. So that was completely missing. Now, at that particular point, the NPS started dropping. So we had a meeting, the leadership team. And of course, we did not invent it. We actually adopted it from some other place. And we decided each member of the leadership team will drop at least one guest to the airport. He will drive the car. So the problem there was, what we were facing was, our guests were super busy, time pressed. Even their meal times, it was either over meetings or a phone call. So we came up with this idea, and starting from me, we started either driving the guests to the airport or picking them up. So what that did for me was, we got solid 25 to 30 minutes where we could have where we could engage with our guests. If there was an issue, I could resolve it before he boarded the flight or before he checked in. I understood clearly, or my team understood clearly, what his expectations are. So, as I said, there is no set way. Everybody has got a different way of interacting with their guests. Now, how to see whether it was successful or not? In Khyber, or rather in that particular resort, what happened was, during my time there, I think my name was mentioned, out of the entire associates, my name was mentioned most in TripAdvisor. Now, seeing that, guests started contacting me directly, calling me, making reservations, or asking for me upon check-in if they didn't meet me, and letting me know, by the way, Mr. X has recommended this place. They were giving fabulous reviews about your property. So yet the answer, and the same way in the business hotel, what happened was, I was able to convert my OTA bookings into hotel direct bookings. My leadership team made direct contacts with these guests. So again, from that point on, well, you'll be surprised. My NPS actually within 45 days was the best in the entire group. And even now, that particular hotel is a market leader when it comes to occupancy. So if the answer to your question, whether it helps in referrals, guest reviews, it's a thumping, resounding yes. It really does.
Excellent. Yeah, Khyber is pretty much up there. But also they sit in a catchment where there's hardly any competition, and that catchment is a prima donna, so to say. And of course, your hotel is also Tony. So yeah, okay. I'll now go across to Rakesh. Rakesh, tell me, technology and digital transformation, extremely important. General management in the digital and social media age is all about instant gratification and justice, or is it about a summary shoot and scoot? I have 3 parts. How does the digital transformation manifest in your day-to-day working, and about the need to address the changing consumer behavior? 1. 2, if you remember the question, what has been the role of technology in the way a general manager's role has developed, changed, or if one may say evolved? And how does it come in handy in your day-to-day working, internally while managing your ship, and outwards while selling to the clients, or while measuring up to and delivering a guest's expectations? Yaad rahega?
Bilkul. So our industry, I believe, is all about innovation. I'm sure all the co-panelists will agree on this one. At each guest touch point during the customer experience cycle, we have an opportunity to create memorable experiences, and that's what we all specialize in. Now, this is greatly facilitated by technological developments. Adoption of digitalization definitely facilitates that. Now, COVID, I'll answer this slightly differently. So COVID here has acted as a catalyst, and the hotels have adopted digitization of services at a much faster pace than what we were all planning to do. Now, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've all had to rethink and innovate in order to tackle the growing concerns surrounding health, safety, and hygiene. Now, this has also resulted in a lot of change in terms of consumer behavior and preferences. So what we have done here, we've embraced digital transformation wholeheartedly. Not that we had a choice, but it was a win-win for all. Now, hotels have launched apps providing guests with the ability to check in, choose their room, order room service, communicate with the hotel staff, all from the palm of their hand. Now, as a result, printed menus, minibars, laundry lists, directory of services, which used to be placed in good old days, have all gone out, don't exist anymore. Additionally, some hotels are also doing digital keys, which is a good example of ideal contactless solution, safety at the top of their mind. Now, going forward, just like we have smart cities, we have smartphones, hotels will, I think some of them have already started experimenting, will have smart rooms, enhancing guest comfort and experience. So some hotels have already taken a lead on this, I know, wherein all the guest room functions, service requirements from curtains, light, air conditioning, television, TV channels, to even casting and streaming services is all done through a virtual assistant. So all this is happening as we speak. Now, what this will do for us is it will help us in streamlining processes and improving the profitability. The margins will improve. It will ultimately speed up the evolutionary process and help the industry emerge stronger from these tough times. That's what I believe. Now, as far as using technology to measure, reach out to customers, deliver guest experience, and measure guest satisfaction is concerned, there's a new breed of digitally native and highly individualistic travelers, the millennials, we call them, Gen Ys, the Gen Zs, who have grown up to being able to customize just about everything from check-in experience to dining and wellness, almost everything. So I am 100% convinced that data is the buzzword today. Tapping into the big data stream generated by guests, staff, visitors, owners, it's like tapping into a gold mine. We as GMs need to be able to answer today's traveler's question, what is in it for me? Why should I choose to stay with you? This has to be justified more than just with location and price. So I firmly believe by actively analyzing and harnessing this data, we will be able to achieve higher room rates, increase yields, and have a sustainable growth.
Excellent. Yeah, digital transformation has actually aided us and spared our time to focus on a whole lot of aspects which we were struggling to handle. I'll now move to Rahul. Back to you, Rahul. Tell me cross-domestic and international geography experience. A bit on that. Are a huge trainer for a well-rounded general manager, right? You spent years outside and you've done a lot of domestic working also. Your views and how good is that a learning? If you can tell with some examples, especially if it is your international exposure, then the standards of hospitality services globally and domestically are a big learning boon. Are they, or am I wrong?
No, absolutely, Bhuvnesh. It's a very interesting question and very close to my heart and my mind because I love traveling. So I certainly owe my professional success to my cross exposures and working in different geographies, especially in my early part of career. From a very practical perspective, some of my esteemed colleagues would also agree that as a hotelier, we learn more from our experiences rather than the books and the hotel schools. It's quite experiential industry for any hotelier. So no doubt, both domestic and international exposures have given me a wider understanding of different cultural elements, history, food and preferences of the people, and which helped me in honing and balancing my people and management skills. So if I give an example here, that when I moved from an operating property in Hyderabad to pre-opening assignment in Rajkot, Gujarat, it was a complete change for me, because going from a different region and going to Rajkot, which is the heart of Saurashtra, where the clientele is much more traditional, and they have totally different preferences. First of all, it is a dry state, and then people prefer to be vegetarian in the destination. So I had to do a lot of survey to understand the F&B landscape of the state, and in particular of that region. I launched all vegetarian specialty restaurant. And after a year of the launch of the property, I even launched a exclusive wedding catering in that market. Because its MICE business is quite successful, and it has a lot of potential. So it was a big transition, because otherwise I would have never experienced how to cater to the Gujarati palate and the taste buds. So I now I'm able to understand the requirements wherever I go. Similarly, if I talk about my stint in casino in Philippines, it was very interesting to see how the casinos operated and how they studied their business in depth to improve their turnover by improving processes, increase footfalls by taking many initiatives, for organizing live shows with celebrities, lotteries, beauty pageants, contests. So there was constantly something or the other happening in the casino environment, and operating a resort with a golf facility. You were dealing with the Asian, predominantly Asian clientele, and something like simple like starting a neck and shoulder massage to VVIP players on the casino floors helped in increasing their revenue and the longevity of the casino players on the floor of the casino. Which
yes. I think it's like massaging a horse before the race.
Yes, absolutely, and they can run longer and stronger. Yes. So that was the something learning. And even if I talk about experience in Israel, so to operate a kosher restaurant, I would have never got an opportunity. It was amazing experience in food and beverage to operate a kosher restaurant. So what I can say is that it's up to us. How do we connect with these experiences, create opportunities, and create out-of-box experiences for our guests, design new strategies, and bring in efficiencies, innovation in our workplace.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Rahul. That gives us a good idea of the importance of a well-balanced international and domestic experience, cross industry, cross geography. Yeah, so good. Subhankar, let me ask you about the brief you've been handed and your style. Hands-on, carrying the team along, one. Arm's length via deployment and control. See, are you a control freak, or do you give a brief and then let them take ownership while giving a close look from the corner of your eye, right? With hindsight, what would you improve, change, or reject? Bullet points, crisp.
Okay, so yeah, with the question that you have put forward, I think the third one actually suits me well. I am a person who would want to go along with the team and would like to brief the team so that they have a direction in place, and would also like to have a look at how things are going and how the team is able to understand and finally implement. Wherever they need help, I would be able to give them that required assistance or resources that is required. So
control freak ho gaya.
Not really, sir. The third one, I would say, the one which is like, you're not completely micro, but you're not only macro. So it has to be a balance of both, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Because in today's time, and it actually helped me, because in the time that I am managing as a general manager of a hotel, there is always a dearth of talent that we are seeing. There's always a dearth of getting the right resources at times. The pandemic has actually really taken things on a different turn altogether, and this is the time for us to actually understand how our leadership could actually help shape the future generation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, it's a double-edged sword where you have to deliver and also develop your team. It's like you with general managers that you had as your bosses who actually took charge but didn't pull you back from ownership.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually would like to say that, since the time I've joined Marriott, my previous, companies that I have worked with were also extremely people-focused companies like Hyatt, Accord. And since the time I've joined Marriott, the brand core values of Marriott have actually driven me. And I think that is the brief which I would, get for, leading a team as a leader in this company. Putting people first is one of the most important, first and foremost brand values that we have. Then embracing change, which is extremely, extremely helping us in the current time. There's constantly change coming, and how we are able to quickly embrace it and give the leadership to ensure that it is well taken forward by the future generations. Act with integrity, which is definitely very, very important. If you have to really make it positive, and if you really need to grow, you need to have integrity in your business. Serve our world, which is again the most important topic at this point of time, and we are all trying to ensure that we do our part of our job to ensure that we are able to serve our world, serve our community. But definitely the most important one that I feel is important, and which I have really got driven into, is pursuing excellence in what we do. So, putting people first and pursuing excellence and embracing change. These are the three things which have really driven me for the last 5 or 6 years, and has helped me to shape my, development roles when it comes to, taking a decision or leading the team together, making time for developing the future generation.
Okay, thank you, Subhankar, for a good response. I'll now move to Ashutosh, Punjabi in Hyderabad. Tell me, Ashu, SOPs and checklists are extremely important for a successful skipper. Some bring them in as a learning, some build their own. Like as is with a skipper of a seagoing ocean liner, or perhaps the captain of an airliner, a classic hotel GM must also have his or her SOPs in place, as is with a checklist which you keep ticking. Done, done, done. This is a lot simpler than the job really is, but checklists alone do not translate into a successful voyage or business. In your case, I have 3 parts. If you will remember or prompt me, I'll tell you. If you can tell us the role of SOPs and checklists and how you have brought in changes and what are they and how effective. 1. Can you give us some examples? 2. Can you present a typical SOP and checklist? 3. But be very brief here and going towards the end of our show time. Tell me.
Thanks, Bhuvnesh again. Checklist and SOPs, I guess, this is an integral part of our lives now. The kind of complexities that we handle on a day-to-day basis. I don't think we can manage without these checklists and SOPs in place. Business is getting much more complex. Teams are getting much more varied. Attritions, like Subhankar just managed, is a way of life now. New hires being a norm. So you need a structure, a quality system and process to make, I need to make my life much more simpler. A little bit of selfish interest also in there. And obviously the system becomes much more robust and efficient. If I have the SOPs, checklists in place, it gives me a breather in there. I just need to follow a certain set procedure and I guess, things are done. To me, SOPs perfectly align and coordinate that need. Things fall into place. You exactly know what you need to do, when you need to do that. And I guess everybody, it's very simple. People can comprehend it. It is there. You need to tick and things get, you need to complete the job. SOPs really ask me, they basically help you with a couple of, if I can give a couple of examples. Number 1, consistency, most importantly, with whatever is happening today, our expansions all over, varied people, it gets you a kind of a consistent kind of experience for guests as well as, a performance at our end also. Most important, reduction in errors. If there's a benchmarking of system, you need to know what you need to do, when you need to do. So I guess errors kind of get reduced. We all have learned from the Japanese and I guess we've all worked on it. We're still working on it. It's a work in progress every possible way, every minute of ours, learning new things. Number 3 is communicating very effectively. It's laid down there. You need to read, you need to comprehend, you need to do. There's not too many ifs and buts in it. You just need to kind of follow it to the T. It helps in evaluation, appraising employees. It impresses, another very important part of the SOPs and checklists is process improvement. I can always take a mid-course correction. If I know things are not going well or, I need to change, like today is a very dynamic kind of a world. Nothing is cast in stone. Things have to change. SOPs change, checklists change, and I think we are on our way. It makes it easy for us to replicate processes like I just mentioned. And today, I guess in every function, it helps you to atomize tasks and, accountability fixing is again a very important part of the SOP and checklists. I can pinpoint this is a restaurant manager's SOP, that's his checklist. He's supposed to follow a certain patterns, do certain things. And if not done, I can fix an accountability. Okay, those things are missing, not done. And and traceability. Another very important part is traceability. Where did we go wrong? Tomorrow, if we need to kind of go back on the drawing board and see, okay, guest experience got kind of, if I can use the word, did not meet guest experiences, we can always trace it back. So for me, SOP is absolutely, it's the Bible. That's the way I operate. We have daily checklists, we have weekly checklists, we have monthly checklists also. And in the company that I work, ITC, a very audit-driven company, Bhuvnesh, you know that.
Yes,
these checklists and SOPs are all auditable. They come under the purview of our audits. So I just cannot fill in a checklist at the end of the month and say everything is done on that day. and not do it on a daily basis. So for me, this is what we kind of live and breathe by.
But also
checklists and SOPs. It's the Bible.
Also, sorry for interrupting. I think also SOPs and checklists have to be dynamic, right? And
they have to be, like I said, course corrections need to be there.
You got to sit down and say, listen, guys, this is our plans, and plans become checklists and SOPs, right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So that's the way we are.
Excellent.
And as a company, we don't get any leeway out there. Checklists and SOPs are followed to the T. I guess for every function, we've broken it down into functions. We've broken it down for HODs. We've broken it down to managers. We've broken it down to supervisors. So kind of atomize it to the maximum possible. And everybody is accountable.
And go granular.
Absolutely granular. The way water is to be served, how many sachets of sugar, how many sachets of sugar-free, what comes from breakfast condiments, how would they be placed, everything is documented. So
and they bring such alignment and get people to work in the narrowest of parallels without deviations.
Absolutely.
So
there is no leeway allowed in the SOP and the WP.
So this is a very interesting discussion here between you and me, right? I'll now move to Rajesh. Rajesh, back to you. All right. How's the feeling of seeing your proteges succeed? Have them develop wings and shine? Not just satisfying, but one of exhilaration. Tell us about your youngsters whom you've seen entering the industry, flowering and growing, getting spotted, and then boom, CXO or in a senior corporate role.
Before I explain about this, I'd like to give an instance that I went through. As soon as I joined Hyatt, there was a particular thing where we had to cross-train the front office manager and the housekeeping manager to each other's function so that they could grow into, future roles. We did the cross-function with each other for a couple of months, but at some point we felt that if they do not know the very essence of running each other's department, it wouldn't do justice to a future role. So at some point we did change their job titles. We got the front office manager to become a housekeeping manager and the housekeeping manager to become a front office manager. Excellent. At this point, I was very, for sure I have to say, I was nervous because I've not done this before and it was supposed to be a calculated risk. But years down the line, I'm very happy to say that I've seen these individuals flourish, do very well, because the perspective that they get of working in each other's department and the pain points they understand gives them a lot of learning. And I'm sure it will do well in life because I myself, I've worked in housekeeping for a period of time. I've cleaned rooms, I've done all of that. So it gives me a very good understanding of how difficult can it be for the other department. So it is very gratifying. It's almost to a point where I'd say it's like a child, your own child succeeding in certain things. It's a matter of, encouraging them, giving them the opportunities, because this is not the time where 85% ready for a certain role. Even if you are up there in the 70s and you're given the opportunity, you tend to give it your best and do well. So it is gratifying, and plus there are people who try and showcase themselves. There are individuals who sort of are raring to go. All they need is one opportunity, and giving them that chance and then nurturing that talent gives a lot of satisfaction, I guess, end of the day. I have seen, I've not seen CXOs for sure, but I know of colleagues who've started out with me and are in very senior positions in homegrown companies. They're also doing, some of them are doing very well in moving over to the owner side. They have multiple properties. The owners have multiple properties, so they look after their assets. So all in all, very gratifying, I would say, that you being able to help and guide at least a few of them. And hopefully they do the same for the others is what you would expect.
And I guess each one of us has been through these spaces, and that's how we've come to where we are. Right?
Exactly. I'd just like to mention on that aspect that this is the very reason I'm sitting here today, because somebody did take a chance and give me that opportunity. Maybe I wasn't the 90 kinds, maybe I was the 70 kinds, but I still get the opportunity, and that's why I'm here. So what can I do in turn? Just keep quiet, help colleagues out, that is all. Not make too much of a noise out of it.
Excellent. That's very humbly put. Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. I have, gentlemen, I have 3 questions and I have 6 minutes. So you have 2 minutes each to respond to that. Let me begin with you, Alex. General management, handling owned assets and managed or franchise assets. 2 parts. What are the differences given that in owned assets, there is no separate owner to manage? And also tell us the peculiarities. 2 minutes by the watch.
And my time starts now.
Yes.
Okay, we've been dwelling on the differences between this managed franchise and the individual properties for a while. Now, my take on this, it's slightly different. See, if you have your priority, if top priority is the hotel and not your brand or the ownership, you will hit the right chord, which will make you take the right decisions, which will prove good for the hotel, which in turn will make both the brand and the hotel happy. To your the question, in an owned asset always, unless and until the owner is actually a hospitality savvy or knows about hoteliering, we have as general managers a responsibility to educate him. It's a very tricky one, because if you do not communicate in the right manner, diplomatically, honestly and transparently, that conversation could go pear-shaped. So that is one major issue you'll have in ownership. But if you ask me, I'm actually just rushing a bit because I know about this time limit. But if you ask me, the most challenging aspect is the managed part, because we are a bridge. And when we are a bridge, we have to, it's a balancing act. So I have to understand what my owner requires and do it within, do it without compromising on any brand standards. So that comes to managed. With franchise, the problem, it's a very simple and tough problem. The guest who is staying in the franchise property doesn't know whether it's a managed or a franchise property. So if he sees any deviation in brand standards, that obviously ends up in a guest complaint, maybe a bad review, and maybe the brand losing that customer. So in all these three aspects,
I call general managers who manage properties as the filling in a sandwich, right? So it can be, if you're grilled, well, you had it. So, all right, interesting, Alex. Thank you for that. That was quick. Rakesh, I don't know how you will get this going in 2 minutes. The next one has 3 parts. They say hotels are the cradle and nursery of talent development. Extremely important question, I must say. Growth and spotting future leaders across levels. Let us talk this big part of which you are the owner and repository, right? HR, people, talent, growth, cross-functional experience via job rotation, etc. How does it all happen? We know about appraisals, developing leader programs, and talent management one. How good is the now well-beaten idea of job rotation, which Rajesh just spoke about, right? And how has it helped in making well-rounded professionals, or may I say leaders? 3, is it an exception or more than that when rankers from levels graduate to be general managers? How successful is the transition?
All right. So first things first, some interesting trivia. While researching recently, I found out the history of appraisals dates back to 221 AD. This is one of the Chinese dynasties where the imperial ruler would evaluate the performance of each of the ruling family members.
ये कहाँ से ढूंढ के लाए हो तुम?
ये research किया मैंने थोड़ा. आपने ये भी करवा दिया अभी.
अच्छा.
Okay, so on a serious note, we know our business is a people business. So taking forward from what Rajesh was saying, both the stakeholders, which is customers and employees, are equally important. So recruitment is where it starts. I say we have people with the right attitude, skill, and training we can always give them. So appraisal process these days is very different from what it used to be when I started my career. Now it is more development driven, target based, participative, and open, very importantly, instead of being considered a closed room, confidential affair. Moreover, what is happening is in some of the hotel chains, like mine, I can take an example. We have started stripping down traditional hierarchies. Now, we do not have 10 different job roles or positions for the same job. We are ditching traditional hierarchies in favor of more equal working environments. Now, this leads to an open and constructive performance management system wherein we seek feedback at multiple times of the year instead of having one conversation at the end of the year. So this gives an opportunity to the candidate to do course correction in the middle of the year. Now, talking of job rotation, I have had opportunity of working in various divisions within the hotel, and I can very confidently say it gives one an edge over others. Being a GM, one has to don different hats at different times. We've all said that. So solving a dispute, you need to be an HR manager. Reading the financial favors, you put yourself into the financial controller's shoes. So now this helps one grow, one have a full, well-rounded growth. So many of my general manager friends started off as waiters. Now, I mentioned earlier, positive attitude is the key to succeed in any environment. For our industry, it's all the more important. I've seen young people rising to senior positions with proper training. And this strengthens the perception that hospitality is a career, it's a way of life, not only a job.
कर दिया तुमने 2 मिनट में?
हो गया?
Yeah, talent development, whichever way you develop it, is I think one of the most important pillar of our industry, right? Not just for a business to stand upon now, for it to carry from where we were to where we are to where we ought to be, right? So obviously it's that baton wo relay race nahi hoti thi. So you've got to keep handing it. Somebody handed it to you, and you're going to hand it to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm good I asked you about this. And yes, job rotation within the hotel across functions or across geographies and also across industries gives you a well-rounded experience. This happens, Rahul Nama, to be a last question, not just for the show, but for the entire series, right? And it had to be yours. So let's go for it. I will not be reading another question this year. Maybe for the other series that I've planned, yes, but not for the GM show series. For an industry that is rapidly scaling up with new hotels, which are opening across classifications and geographies, this is where pre-opening experience for a general manager is very, very important. I wanted to ask this question. I'm 4 parts to it. Pre-opening and steady state or normal course general management calls upon different skill sets. How easy is that switch? What are the skill sets for a pre-opening GM? Are pre-opening GM specialists, or can anybody do it?
I can say it's a great occasion. The last question coming to me, it's a historical occasion when, the last show and the last question, and it's something very near to my expertise in hotel industry. So I will talk very practically on it, and just to visualize hotel general manager who has been working with the operational property, with a steady property. Suddenly he joins a new property where there's a pre-opening role, and it is all brick and mortar. He does not have an office. He has to probably sit in a makeshift office. And I can say at one location, I was sitting in a container office, and I was the second employee. It was not the first stint where I was a first or second employee, but it happened in several pre-openings that I was probably the second employee after the chief engineer. So imagine you don't have the resources, you don't have the proper infrastructure, and you have to start doing what you are not really specialized in, which is dealing with a brick and mortar structure, dealing with the project agencies. So for a steady manager general manager who comes from an operating property, it's a complete switch, and it's a complex and technical switch. because apart from the expertise in the hotel industry that he is having, so he has to drive recruitments, he has to prepare a business plan, and so many other functions he has to overlook, hire the right people. He has to also take care of the the statutory compliances, plant and machinery, have the understanding of interiors, aesthetics, understand blueprints, update the checklist, the charts, so that he can keep track. So it's a very technical area which he has to involve, and it's non-core area which most of us are not trained for. But I can really say that each and every pre-opening adds to your experience, and it's a very intense role which a general manager from an operations background has to be involved in. And I can say what really worked for me in these roles have been the temperament and to stay calm and take things step by step. But
and work to timelines.
Yes, and timelines, and you know how inquisitive the owners will be, because they have their money at stake, they have deadlines, they are sometimes a delay of licenses, sometimes they are getting the licenses, so they want to expedite, they want to start part opening of the property. So it's an amazing experience, and definitely to say that hiring an experienced general manager with a pre-opening is much more better than not having an experienced resource. Having said that, it's not that you cannot have, it's always a first, and you can always pick up the skills. As I said, it's the temperament, focus that really helps you in opening a property, and it's a wonderful experience.
Excellent. Rahul, general managements are like pre-opening general managers are actually like project engineers who become general managers, right? So it calls on very, very different skill sets. Having said that, we've run out of time. Gentlemen, it's end of the season, end of this show. 2022 is done with and dusted. It's been good. Lot to take home. We have, if we have 15 questions here, imagine how many we have in 20 shows, right? So there is a whole lot of information sitting there. Let me see if we want to compile it and put it together with questions and responses. We've had some fantastic moderators. We've had brilliant speakers. Look at today, what responses. And I'm telling you, today's topic is so good. Evolving roles of a hotel general manager, right? Or involving roles of hotel general managers. Excellent. What a great, I want you to stay back here. I want to play that series again, and then we'll say namaste to each other and move on and promise to meet soon and keep connected. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So this is our first show, another day, another show by the BW Hotelier.
It is a consequence of this strategy that has helped us make it more cost effective.
The students who join that program are exposed across various departments.
If there's one thing which is insulated from pollution and the winter and the cold, is the big fat Indian wedding.
Weddings out of a catering business was almost close to, I think, about 40% of catering business.
There is no denying that the COVID-19 pandemic has sent the global economy into shock.
Over the last 16 months, 18 months, there has been a major shift in the industry.
We had to teach ourselves to be empathetic, to listen.
Our first priority has always been to ensure that our guest experience is seamless.
They've had a lot of time at home. They've had a lot of time thinking about stuff.
We need to really take pride in, and we need to ensure that this continues.
From what we used to hunt for to what we are conducting.
You put 4 guys in a room. The guy from the south would do the most and talk the least.
Today, there are various companies who are willing to partner with hotels and come up with solutions that drive sustainability.
We will need to start educating even our consumers about rethinking and refusing. I don't think for the East, whether it's the 5 states, whether it's the way you look at it in different cities.
The state has got palaces, it's got forts, it's got royal heritage.
When you hire somebody or when you nurture somebody, they grow with the organization.
It is all about rotating people. It's all about double hatting. It's about optimally utilizing our resources.
He or she operates as a role model for the subordinates.
Currently, that we are facing a talent crunch in the industry.
As you mentioned, the holidays from once a year to now 3 times a year.
Domestic travel was like a booster shot, make us float in this business.
Our number one focus is to go local.
For some, it's a passion. For some, it's a necessity.
At one time, we were the ultimate choice where you would get that best French fry in town.
Look at our profitability in terms of per wine bottle sold.
Are there any new business segments or new business trends that we believe that have kind of emerged? So there was a huge desire to move out and travel at the earliest opportunity.
Is it the customer first or is it technology first? And sometimes it's a bit of a struggle.
World's only mothers-run market is in Manipur.
Art, monuments, events, spirituality, gems and jewelry, and above all, food.
This has been a very special series for us, and we'd like to thank all our speakers. Thank you all for being there. Thank you all. Thank you for bearing with me. We had to do this, and thank you. Right? God bless you. Thank you, Rajesh, Ashu, Rahul, Rakesh, Saurabh. I think Alex has skipped out. So been wonderful having you share the screen space together and giving us an opportunity. We'll see you soon. Keep hooked on to BW Hotelier and let us know what we can do for you. Thank you for your time.